God news now, and a startling new poll has revealed that only just over half of Americans say they approve of God's job performance. Only 52% of voters, when asked, said they were very pleased with how God seemed to be handling the universe. When they were asked the question, if God exists, do you approve or disapprove of its performance? Its performance? Take that, God. Not only are you now only just keeping your head above a 50% approval rating, you're now an it. That's got to be a huge wake-up call for the big man, Andy. Or the big it.
Well, what exactly has God been doing for the last 2,000 years, John? Sitting around on his big cloudy butt, doing pretty much jack shit as far as I can make out. And it does suggest that that's quite a high approval rating, John. That is more than any member of Congress, I think I read, and more than almost every political leader around the world, I would imagine. That suggests that taking a laissez-faire attitude is really guaranteed to get you elected, John. He will get under any electoral system, he would be in. And he has done nothing since allowing his own son to be killed. Now, is that really the kind of leadership we're looking for in the world? Maybe it is. I mean, I know he's had creative difficulties, John. His first book, of course, was overlong, convoluted, structurally flawed and rather episodic, lacking a coherent narrative. And the second one was basically a sci-fi fantasy whose central character was inherently unbelievable. So you can see, he's been struggling in terms of action and in terms of creativity. And I guess he can only rely for so long on the excuse, come on, I made a peacock. That's not going to fly for that long, is it?
I don't know, Andy, how many peacocks have you made? I'm guessing it's less than one.
But also, Rupert Murdoch rated in the same poll 12% approval. So he's doing nearly as quarter as well as God. Which, given the recent little bloopers he's been involved in, he should be quite pleased with that, I think.
Of those who voted, 40% said they were unsure of whether they approved or not, which is classic hedging of your bets. To be honest, very wise. And 9% said they did not approve. And those 9% are going to have trouble explaining that to St. Peter at the pearly gates eventually. Apparently, younger voters, aged 18 to 29, were much more likely to disapprove of God's works. And it's not clear whether that's because they have a bleaker future to look forward to planet-wise, or whether they are further away from God's damning judgment on their survey response. The 928 American voters, ranging from liberal to conservative, were asked to rate God's performance during the survey. And also in detail when it came to issues like creating the universe, handling the animal kingdom, and controlling natural disasters. And here are the results, Andy. When asked to evaluate God on some of the issues it is responsible for, voters gave God its best rating on creating the universe, 71 to 5. Now, they also apparently approved...
That means 5% of people disapprove of the creation of the universe, John. Well, I guess financially they might have a point, John. I mean, it's clearly a loss-making universe.
Right.
And bottom line,
good point.
We would all be better off if the universe didn't exist. And that really, in the modern world, that's all that counts. Bottom line finance.
They also approve of God's handling of the animal kingdom, 56 to 11.
Really?
But even, this is the shocker, even God's handling of natural disasters, 50 to 13. What? They approve of God's handling of natural disasters. How about not having any? How about that? How about that as a suggestion? That smacks, Andy, of ballot box intimidation to me. I think you've got to get the UN involved here. I think people are worried that if they vote against him, they're going to have one of God's tornado goons come rough their town up overnight. But as you mentioned, this might actually not turn out to be that bad a score for God, because President Obama only has a 44% approval rating at the moment. It's the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, only has a 33% approval rating, and as you mentioned, the worst rating of all in this survey was reserved for Rupert Murdoch, who only had a 12% approval rating. Is this on? Is anyone still hearing this?
Well, most of those 12% were buglers who just want us to keep going, I think.
Yeah. But they all lag behind Oprah Winfrey, who had a 60% approval rating in a Fox News poll from this spring. That's right. Oprah Winfrey, Andy, has an 8-point lead on God in terms of popularity. And she doesn't even have her own show anymore. I guess it just goes to show, if you give out free shit, people will love you. But perhaps the best part of this whole story, Andy, was the fact, if you scroll down to the bottom of the poll, it states, this poll's margin of error was plus or minus 3.2%. Are you f***ing kidding me? I'm not... Let me be clear. I'm not an elite-level professional mathlete, Andy, and I've never claimed to be. But shouldn't the margin of error for that particular survey be, 100%? At the very least.
Of course, God's had a pretty up-and-down relationship with the human race for quite a while now. God, for those who've not heard of him, retired former celebrity planet designer, microbiologist and genocidal flood-wielding maniac, who lists among his many addresses the Vatican City, bits of the Middle East, and every grain of sand. He sounds like a f***ing tax dodger to me, John. But ever since the series of 10 increasingly annoying pranks against Egypt, locusts everywhere, that'll teach him to enslave my buddies, frogs, well, he's, I think he's off his game, John. He's off. He's lazy and self-interested and off his game. And if that is wrong, Lord, strike me down now. Well, if Murdoch's not going to do it, I don't think God is either.